Hi everybody, welcome to Fierce and Pretty. I'm Honey, and this is the fourth episode on my Thoth Tarot series. And finally today I will go through to this Phyllis Seckler's book on the Thoth Tarot, Astrology and other selected writings. So we'll check this book and the deck for today. Let's jump into the deck first. This deck is a 1986 AGM Mueller's printout of the original Thoth Tarot, but it is in Finnish. And that's not the only curiosity in this deck. On top of it being Finnish, it has the 3 magus cards. So I got this deck with a really cheap price for €5 only, and the deck is in quite a decent condition. It's just a bit bent. I've been trying to sort it out and it's coming together, but all the cards are there, all the titles are in Finnish, and it has all 3 magus cards. These are not meant to be used, as I've understood. It's just earlier versions that Aleister Crowley didn't approve by Lady Frida Harris. He sometimes made her draw these cards up to even 8 times until he was satisfied with the images that were accepted into the Thoth deck. But so, it is an vintage deck, and size-wise, compared to the bigger Crowley cards, is that much smaller. The deck I showed in last episode, the Finnish special printout, is actually even a bit smaller than this one. But it's the smaller card size if you get this blue box even now today. But that's enough about the deck. So shortly about Phyllis Seckler, who she was. She was part of OTO and Thelema, and one of those original people who actually had worked with Aleister Crowley himself. But he also became an important person, for example, to Lon Milo Duquette, whose book we went through in the first episode. I'll just quickly show on my Kindle. This is the introduction that Lon Milo Duquette wrote to Phyllis Seckler's other book, The Kabbalah, Magic and Thelema, Selected Writings, Vol. 2. It's not this book that we're going through today, but the introduction that Lon Milo Duquette wrote is really funny. He tells about how he first encountered Phyllis Seckler when he decided to join OTO in 1975, and he had to travel to meet these people for his initiation, and he was really scared that these people would be some sort of cannibal satanistic cult of Aleister Crowley, and they would eat him or rape him or whatever. But also Phyllis Seckler, who was the person who was supposed to meet Lon Milo Duquette back in the 70s, was a bit scared about meeting him, because you never know who you're gonna meet. But both people were fearing in vain, and they ended up working a great path together around these topics in OTO and wherever. But this book, this introduction, I found out in Lon Milo's other book. So this introduction you can be found in Lon Milo Duquette's book, Allow Me to Introduce an Insider's Guide to the Occult. It's a bit of a different book. It's filled with introductions for other books. So I was a bit surprised I didn't actually read enough about it when I bought it to my Kindle. but at least it's a cool way to find other books and resources. But enough about Lon Milo DuQuette and Phyllis Seckler. Let's jump into the Thoth Tarot. It has kind of 3 parts. First it goes through the trumps, then Thoth Tarot and Astrology, which is actually the minors, and then some selected letters, that some old correspondence between people who've been working in OTO and Thelema and so on. But this book is constructed differently. For example, the Kabbalistic Tarot, we started with the Sephiroth and with the minors, but this book we start from the trumps. It goes through the Tree of Life, first handling the paths. There's the Fool, Aleph, then Magus, Beth, then to Gimel, to High Priestess, then Dalet, to Empress, Star in Hay, and it continues downwards. So the cards don't appear in this book, the trumps, in the order that they are actually in the deck, numerical order. They come in this book in the order of the paths. So in the first part we go through the trumps and some psychology. Then the second part is Thoth Tarot and Astrology. There comes an introduction. We have some pictures of the old planets. Actually, in here they are also the new planets. There are astrological charts again. A few different ones. They are always good. There's also charts about the seasons. And it talks about astrology, and of course you have the Tree of Life for Kabbalah here. The text itself is quite tensely written. It takes quite a lot of time to read it. There's not much space between the different chapters. So let's try to make some reason into these diagrams. What are they for and how are they supposed to help you? You could actually arrange all your tarot cards if you would have a space big enough to fit this round diagram, but today we'll just focus on one area. So let's start with Aries and the Emperor card, as does this book start from Aries, and as does the zodiacal year always start from there, from spring. So what I'm trying to show you here about this image is how the Emperor card is attached to the 2, 3 and 4 of Wands. Here we also see the planetary influences of Mars, Sun and Venus. But then we also do have the court cards playing their part. The Queen of Wands is assigned for the 2 first decans of Aries, but the last part goes to Prince of Discs, and it continues with the 2 first decans in Taurus in Hierophant. But how this would look, so we do have the Emperor card here. Then for the first 2 decans we have here the 2 of Wands and 3 of Wands, and the Queen of Wands is with those guys, but she is also, for her third part, attached to Pisces and also to the 10 of Cups. As we see here, the Queen of Wands, there's the Moon Pisces card, the 10 of Cups, 2 of Wands and 3 of Wands. So she's actually working on all those three 3 cards if we talk in tarot terms. But then let's kick out the Pisces and just stay here with Aries. Then for the last decan, for the Four of Wands, we don't have the Queen of Wands anymore, but we do have the Prince of Discs. And as we see here, Prince of Discs, Four of Wands, then jumping to Taurus in Hierophant for the 5 and 6 of Discs. And so it goes on. So actually, when many times we think about our own tarot cards, we normally just think about the ones that are assigned to our zodiacal or our sun sign. But actually, each of us have also, if you only count from your sun sign, you would have 3 cards. One from the major arcana, 1 trump, and then 1 minor card. But then if you start to look at the bigger picture on your birth chart, as we can also see that Aleister Crowley did in the Thoth Deck, he has also put his signature sign in some other cards that are, for example, in his rising sign. I will quickly show you my 3 cards in the Thoth Deck. So in here, the table from Lon Milo DuQuette's book, Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, comes in really helpful. I'm born in 11th of November, so that's why my sun sign is here in the death card. And the 11th and the birthday also lets you know in which decan you belong, and that way you can find out the court card and then the minor arcana that you get. Mine is 6 of Cups. So then if you are reading this book ever and you first figure out what cards in which decans belong to you, then it will be quite interesting to start to read about what this book, for example, tells you about that specific decan. So the way about how this arranges the minor cards here is we go with Aries first. So the title is Aries. First it talks about Aries being a cardinal fire sign. So we do get a lot about astrology also in this book. Then it goes shortly into Emperor, talks about the sun being exalted in Aries and Mars ruling the sign, so astrology again. Then it talks about the qualities of Emperor. The Emperor epitomizes power and authority, rank and rulership, and it goes on. So it talks about the Emperor card also, so not just only the minor arcana. Then it goes, after talking about the major arcana cards, it jumps into the court cards, and it starts with the Queen of Wands, and how if you belong in those 2 decans of Aries, in the beginning of Aries, for 2 and 3 of Wands, how the Queen of Wands is affecting it. Talks about it quite a bit, as you can see. Then it jumps to the first decan of Aries, that is ruled by the 2 of Wands, and the 2, it partakes the will and force in Chokmah. So then we get also again some Kabbalah here. Then it talks about the Dominion card being also very Mars-like, so again astrology. This is the amount of the first decan, so the first part of the Dominion card. Then it jumps into the middle decan of Aries, which is called the 3 of Wands, Virtue. As a 3, it partakes of the nature of Binah, so again jumping to the Tree of Love and Kabbalah, astrology. Then on the next page we go into the last decan of Aries, which is the Four of Wands, the completion card. And then from here on it also changes the court card. We are not anymore talking about the Queen of Wands, but now we're talking the Prince of Discs. And then it gives the influence of the Prince of Discs, how it affects that card. And then comes the next zodiacal sign of Taurus, and the same continues with each sign, and they go all in order. Then comes Gemini, Cancer, and it goes on. But I hope this clarifies somehow how you could use these diagrams and the placing of the tarot cards, and seeing how also it combines things together in a Thoth deck. But that's quite a long session in this book, going through all the sun signs and all the cards in them, the major and the minor arcana. But then this book has also a part 3, selected letters. Here is, for example, letters from Aleister Crowley to Phyllis Seckler and other people's. Quite long letters. I haven't read these yet, so I don't have anything to say about this. But in total, this book was a great surprise to me. Let's take a quick detour. If you're reading this book or anything other about Thoth, you might encounter the letters I.T.C. And you might end up wondering what that is, as did I. And it is in the continuum, a set of publications from Thelema, and you can find all these 5 volumes from the internet. You can download them from this site. It is free, but you can also donate, as it says there. But you can go to the site. I will leave the address down below. But you can download these for free, and what you get if you download these is hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds pages. I don't know what yet. I haven't read them. I downloaded them to check it out, but writings from Aleister Crowley, and I don't know what the total content is, but Thelemic texts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. So if you feel the need to check it out, you can check them out, but at least you will know what the I.T.C. is when you're reading books, and it keeps on, people keep on referring into it. Here's, for example, one poem by Aleister Crowley. But just a short clarification about those 3 letters if you encountered them in reading books about the Thoth Tarot. But let's jump back into today's subject. Sorry for the detours, but that's when I'm studying Thoth. It happens all the time. I actually learned quite a lot, which was surprising, and I think this is a book that I think I might end up using the most out of my Thoth book so far. It's way more clear. I've been reading this and the Book of Thoth now side by side. So I've read, for example, about High Priestess in the Book of Thoth, and then I read it from here, and this gives a whole lot longer explanations on anything. And I think it's a bit different than the Lon Milo Duquette's book. So for me, this was a really positive surprise. Only thing is that the text is quite dense, and that makes it a bit slower read, but definitely a very useful book. But then I will also add in the description box down some other links if you want to know a bit more about Phyllis Seckler I found one podcast about that has topics like talking about Phyllis Seckler, and the other book that I don't have is more about Thelema, which is not something that I'm studying right now per se. I'm studying the Thoth Tarot, but then also I'll attach a link to a site where I found these diagrams that you can print out if you don't have any books that have them, if you want to do the exercises and start to finding out which cards you have. And even if you don't have this book explaining about the decans, you can of course do it yourself. Think about the qualities in that cards and try to make it the total that you take your sun sign and the card, and what qualities does that have. And then you take the court card, what you do have, and then the minor card, and try to see if it makes a nice total picture. But I highly recommend this book. I bought it from Amazon, at least you can get it there, and it was like 20 something euros, so not highly expensive. I checked out the other book on the Thelemic, which I saw the introduction of Lon Milo Duquette's book also. That is available still, but mostly the old copies that they are selling are on higher prices. But it's a harder book to get than this, but I don't have anything to say about that book because I haven't read it. But I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions on this Phyllis Seckler's book or this vintage Finnish deck with 3 magus, or anything around Thoth, or any comments, please leave them below. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye!